Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity also to explain a little bit what is going on in the spearhead on Europe and the globalizing world. I mean, contrary, and to some extent, I was quite jealous of ANME because there was already such a project, a multidisciplinary group who is doing it well for certain period. Now, my experience with Europe and the globalizing world was slightly different. Last year, after the opening of the academic year, we were asked to come together to form what is called this networking approach, to meet people from other faculties. And although in all faculties, and especially in the city center campus, in the faculties of in the School of Business and Economics, in the Faculty of Law, in the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, in the Faculty of Humanities and Science, all are dealing in different ways with Europe and the globalizing world, but it was still much more difficult to find out what are now our common research themes. And I was asked to chair a group and inviting people really to discuss what can we see as common features. And we came up in a discussion with many different scientists to a couple of overarching themes. One was, what we finally developed was called global transformation, multi-level challenges. The other topic, we discovered that in many faculties, but very often by scientists who didn't know each other, who have not talked to each other, but who might have heard from each other, was the subject sustainable development. I think in all the faculties I mentioned, scientists were busy with sustainability and development, or with sustainable development, with corporate and social responsibility, in a national, in a European, and in a global perspective. And for my own faculty speaking, these issues were also dealt from a human rights perspective. So it was very interesting to see how we can bring these groups together. And finally, we saw an issue which I think is very common for Maastricht, as it is a border region, is crossing borders. And also, we can see to some extent that many research dealing with Europe is especially interested in a border region, because there the problems can be perhaps faced more than ever. Now, Maastricht is, of course, the university, but Maastricht is also the city of the treaty. Now, we have several years, let's say, to celebrate the treaty. We had the negotiations in December 1991, we had the signing of the treaty in 1992, and we had finally the entering into force of the treaty in 1993. So this year already, we had a meeting of experts concerning the economic crisis, the euro, and in this way, the global transformation and the multi-level challenges in Maastricht. But we also can celebrate again and see the challenges next year in 2013, 20 years of the treaty, how the issues entered into force. And I would just like to show you the issues which are addressed in the different faculties. Now, global transformation, we found in the Faculty of Arts and Social Science very often the role of the state in a European and international setting, but also the role of Europe in a global context, the relationship with the US, with the BRIC, the foreign policy, Europe with a new foreign policy actor. We find the issue of sovereignty, democracy, the rule of law and governance. So the issue of national parliaments and the European and international legislator. The lack of democracy in the European Union, which is very often criticized. The role of the citizen, and here again I come to the Maastricht Treaty, the concept of European citizenship, which has been introduced by the Maastricht Treaty, and the role of the citizen participating in this democracy. Then we have the courts, the rule of law. Last year, we had one of the young researchers presenting this very difficult position between courts, the national courts, the European courts, the influence of these courts on the national legal orders, and again, also the international development. How is the WTO and the appellate body influences our systems? But we can also look, and this was very interesting when we looked on these multi-level challenges from the perspective of the firm, the entrepreneur, the functioning of the market, and the influence of the behavior of the people. And if we look now in global transformation and multi-level challenges, we see special groups already developing between the business school and psychology on the behavior of people in the functioning of the market, patients in the health sector, but we also see working groups together dealing with precisely the rule of law, good governance, global justice, and forming different multidisciplinary, but also interdisciplinary research groups. Concerning the second theme, sustainability and development, corporate social responsibility, we had, of course, already the ICES with a master program on sustainability, science, and policy. But we also had quite a large research group and the School of Business and Economics concerning sustainable developments, markets, and organization, also dealing with financial regulations, securities, the issue of sustainable banking and greenhouses, but also the issue of corporate regulations and how this can fit to a good corporate social responsibility. Environmental regulation and climate change, social and economic human rights, and healthcare in a global context were all issues mentioned when we discussed the various researches concerning Europe and the globalizing world, dealing with sustainable development. And I think it's one of the really challenges for the coming years to find research groups who are willing across the faculty borders to combine this in joint research efforts. And I would like to give some more examples which already exist. Now, my third theme, which we had, were crossing border regions. Now, the internal market, which has to enter into force on the 1st January 1993, and which is still a process, actually, which might never end, deals from the beginning with the free movement of persons, goods, services, and capital, the functioning of the internal market. But now, if you live in a border region like Maastricht, you will see that there are so many challenges precisely on the functioning of this internal market, which are worthwhile for an interdisciplinary research. Employees of Maastricht University who live not in the Netherlands, but just across the border, whether that is Belgium or Germany, will realize the difficulties they very often face in international taxation issues, in pension systems, in social security and employment rights. And it is, I think, one of the challenges of this university to give a good research which answer for these regional problems, but which can also be seen as a problem for more border region across the European Union, answers to these very relevant practical issues. Furthermore, I already mentioned the concept of European citizenship and the position of third country nationals, because if you have introduced an issue like nationality and European citizenship, then you also have a sort of exclusion. So you have an inclusion of the European citizen on the one hand to make the European citizen equal to the nationals, but on the other hand, you have also a sort of exclusion. And it's one of the aims of the European Union, how to treat the third country national as equal as possible to its European counterparts. Insofar, so as well at the School of Governments, at the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, as well as the Faculty of Law, immigration and integration issues, questions of non-discrimination, but also the issue of how this happened in the light of the demographic developments in these regions are issues of research and are already very often done in joint publications. Recently, I also saw a joint publication from two scholars of Maastricht University concerning the question of behavior after naturalization in electoral behavior, which is very topical at the moment, because what is the consequences of a liberal or a restrictive naturalization policy concerning the behavior in the electorate? Then we also have the issue of transnationalism, globalization, and in this regard, the relationship between Europe and the global South. Insofar, this issue of crossing border region is dealing with international mobility from an international, global perspective, from a European perspective, from a free movement perspective, but also very locally. We have many regional mobility across borders, and we have the challenge to solve the issue which are related to this. Now, looking back to it well, there existed already for a couple of years an interdisciplinary research group, which you can find under www Maastricht Migration. Now, here, an interdisciplinary research group has found its way together. They include researchers from FASOS, from law, from the School of Governments, from SBE, and they have, looking at international network, quite a large international network and joint projects. They have quite an active PhD group together, which I think is very important for the further internationalization and interdisciplinary development. They have joint publications. They have organized conferences and workshops together. Now, at the moment, and this is, let's say, what will happen for 2013, the plan is to set up a Maastricht Center of Citizenship, Migration and Development, and work on this as a much more organized situation so that we can celebrate the 20 years of Maastricht Treaty and also the introduction of the concept of European citizenship with a larger international conference, but also with earning more on projects, because the issue of citizenship is still very, very topical. Another project which has just started in Europe and the globalizing world is the other way around. Maastricht Migration was already an existing group, which is now further development in the light of the spearhead. The group expert has met previously from the starting of May. This group is again multidisciplinary setup, and the idea is to study the role of expertise in Europe and beyond. It is one of the phenomena of our time that for all decision-making, experts are invited. Experts are sitting in international organizations, in international bodies. Experts are invited for looking at peer reviews. Experts are commenting on international treaty developments. And the question is, how has this role of experts influenced the history of the European integration? How really influences experts national and EU regulatory decision-making? How can the role of experts be controlled from a democratic perspective? Do experts influence, and how do they have influenced EU health policy? Very often, if experts are sitting in international committees, they formulate already treaties, they pre-formulate them, and finally the decision is made by the governments, but the text of these already instruments is already formulated by the various experts. And this can be a very interesting research issue. How do they really function? How are they selected? Is there a pre-selection? And what is our role in it? Furthermore, very interesting is the issue of technocratic governance through the implementation of committees, and what makes peer advice really an authority in the political context. Now, this group is really very multidisciplinary setup. The plan is to develop this center, and it is also in the light of Horizon 2020, one of the key issues which in Brussels is discussed at the moment. Now, with this, I wanted to give you a different overview. I wanted to show you that we are still in the starting, to some extent, from finding different ways of cooperating, but I'm sure that the challenge ahead for 2013 for all faculties is multi-disciplinary project. Because if we want to have a vibrant research climate in this border region, this interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach is vital. So Europe and the globalizing world, we are a network university across many borders, but we should also look across faculty borders even more than we have done before. Thank you very much.